Capriccio is basically about a woman, Madeline, that also known as the Countess, which is my character, who is having a rehearsal at her house on an afternoon. Her brother is putting on a big celebration for her birthday, and a director, a very famous actress, a composer, and a playwright are all there. And they are rehearsing for the play. Madeline's brother, the Count, is also acting in the play. That's part of her big festive celebrations. They have a bit of the rehearsal is there. Meanwhile, the playwright and the composer are vying for the affections of Madeline, my character. One, of course, the composer represents music, and the playwright represents the words. And we get into a discussion about which is more important, the words or the music. And it also means who is more important in Madeline's life, the poet or the playwright. They all come to the conclusion that really you can't have one without the other, certainly in opera. And so Madeline is given an ultimatum by Flamand to decide, is it me or is it Olivier, the playwright? And of course she's in a terrible dilemma because she feels that they need each other and she loves them equally the same. And I won't tell you how it ends up in the end, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Singing Strauss is completely different to singing Puccini. There are wonderful soaring phrases that you get in Puccini in the Strauss, but it is certainly in this opera it's much more conversational. So you take the voice off the chords a little bit. It's more chit-chat, you're not always singing in that lyrical line. And it's more difficult, of course, as well to learn. It's not, it's quite angular. A lot of the intervals are quite difficult. Rhythmically, it's very tricky as well. I think Puccini, although he has a lot of rubato, it's more straightforward. Although in the final scene of Capriccio, there are some wonderful, wonderful Puccini-esque phrases. But generally, the rest of the opera is a completely different genre. Singing in German is completely different to singing in, for me anyway, singing in Italian, although I have done German repertoire and also Czech in my recent roles, so I'm in that way of singing. I guess a lot of people would say you have to sing them the same, of course you do, but I find there are certain sounds that you can't resonate through with the sound and some of those German consonants. So it's different. You use different muscles in your body, I think, and a different way of using your mouth to get around the language. The theme of Capriccio, and actually the libretto, Strauss collaborated with Clemens Krauss, who was a conductor on the libretto. And I think he's used all of the old adages that he's heard people say over the past. The orchestra's too loud, why do they do this? And what about recitatives? It's very, very funny, the text. And there's a lot of in-jokes, especially for a composer. And I think that he felt it was his greatest achievement, this opera. And I think musically he puts everything all his best ideas into it. And also into the text. I think he's making various statements that he knew all about what everybody was saying, what the singers were complaining about, what the audiences were grizzling about. I mean, he puts it all into that, and also his ideas of what he felt of things. So in that way, it's his final gift to the world of music, really. When I started the rehearsals, I asked John Cox, what was the difference between the Marshaling and the Countess? How can I make these characters different? And he said that the Countess is an intellect, and the Marshaling is not. Basically, she acts on her passions, on her feelings, whereas the Countess analyzes everything. And I think you can really see this in her dilemma in the final scene. Everything's in the text. You don't have to do too much, as long as you are elegant, and it's all there. You hear it in the music, and you can get your clues from the music. Because I always wear a different perfume. It's really only an excuse to get a new perfume. But for this role, I happen to have it here, and it's called Antonia's Flowers, and it's by a woman in the Hamptons that has her own, I think you can actually get it here, and it's rather gorgeous, very sweet. It's kind of sweet and feminine, but yeah, it just evokes that whole era, that whole light, capricious era in the 20s.